Clinging to all that's precious, a mother who fled fighting in Ukraine's east, only for her son to be wounded by bombs in the west. There was a powerful explosion, she says. Windows broke. He lost half a finger. Artem is 3 years old and the youngest of 11 injured in Lviv. In the early hours today, rockets rained down, 7 died, and the thinly veiled sense of safety in Lviv was ripped from this city in western Ukraine where, until today, the war had claimed no civilian lives.
What we see in Ukraine today is genocide that the aggressor is carrying out on purpose, killing civilians. 7 civilians had plans for life. Today their lives have ended.
Last night was brutal. Russian rockets were fired on more than 300 sites across Ukraine. In Kharkiv in the east, 3 lives were lost, adding to the 15 killed in the 3 days before. President Zelensky today handing over EU candidacy papers, called the latest bombings nothing but deliberate terror. More terror is believed imminent though, in time for this. May 9th, Victory Day in Moscow, an annual celebration of Soviet triumph over Germany in World War II. 3 weeks to go, and it's believed within days an all-out assault on eastern Ukraine may commence. For 7 weeks, Mariupol has held. Just. Now, Russia believes just a few thousand fighters holed in at the Azovstal steel mill are the last line of defence. Ukraine believes 20,000 have died here and they will, quote, fight absolutely to the end. This city on the Sea of Azov is strategically important, not just for the port here, but capturing Mariupol would create an unbroken land corridor from annexed Crimea through to eastern Ukraine and then Russia. Victory in time for Victory Day, though, is far from guaranteed, say strategists.
Bad time of year, spring and autumn, to be trying to manoeuvre armoured forces. A change season at the present moment. Ground is very soft, very difficult to manoeuvre off roads and tracks. And I think this will be very much in the Ukrainians' favour because the Russians will have to channel their advances on areas of hard-standing highway and metal surfaces.
Today, the first unverified pictures emerge of the now sunken warship Moskva. Casualty numbers ranging from a handful to hundreds. The loss for Russia, huge. The missile cruiser, the men, the humiliation for a Russian president desperately in need of symbolic wins.
Well, the city of Dnipro has managed to escape the worst of the fighting that has devastated an entire swathe of the country to the east and south, where Russia is now focusing its assault. Thousands of people have fled to the city from the front lines further east in search of aid and refuge. Our chief correspondent Alex Thompson has been in Dnipro. He's now further west in Oman, from where he joins me now.
Yes, I think Paul McNamara's report a moment or two ago sets out very clearly what a lot of Ukrainians will tell you anecdotally. They'll say there are some areas where there's fighting. There are large swathes of the country, the vast majority of the country still physically unaffected by the assaults and the actual ground fighting. But they will always say nowhere is safe, and particularly from this upsurge that we've seen since the Moskva sank actually in the Black Sea in these long-range ballistic missile attacks. Beyond that, of course, the attritional front in the east and in the south, Mariupol right up into the Donbass, Luhansk region, town after town, village after village, being pulverized day after day as the Russians continually soften up these areas prior to the expected approach, an assault. So what, therefore, of towns and cities, particularly large centres, further back from there? Well, we've spent a few days in Dnipro, as you say, looking at how life is lived there with this superficial veneer of normality, a sense that there is no war going on. But you only have to scratch the surface to find things are very far from normal. War? What war? At first glance, Dnipro with its traffic and trams looks normal enough. They're building the city's future here, like the invasion never happened. On the banks of the enormous winding Dnipro River, they still come to fish, chat and unwind at the weekend. And yet, many buildings are boarded up in anticipation. Others suddenly demonstrably patriotic. The roadside ads are selling war and resistance and how to join up. And we're on our way to meet the deputy mayor at the council office, also not quite its peacetime self. Armed guards outside, prized train set inside, and Ronald Reagan memorabilia all over the walls. But these days the business here is life or death, and the plea for Western weapons, weapons, weapons.
But we need only help from our best friend from United Kingdom. For Ukraine, now it's a really friend number one. It's a really true. It's a really true. Number one. Number two, United States. Yeah. Number three, Poland.
Bravado, perhaps, but he brushes off the threat of a coming Russian offensive from the east.
Russian army have a very lot of young and stupid men. It's not good. No, they cannot drive, they have no petrol, they have not food, they have not everything. And a lot of these guys want to go back to Russia because they don't understand why we're here.
The weapons, the soldiers go east. The tragedy, the civilian agony comes west. To Dnipro's surface normality and beyond. Maybe, mercifully, they'll be too young to remember it all. Before it was families fleeing Mariupol in the south, now they're joined by evacuees from the eastern Donetsk and Luhansk, Putin's prime military objectives. And Nana Andrienko and little Vavra, who's one, are from the Donetsk region.
Сирены постоянно воют, и в городе, можно сказать, гуманитарная такая тоже проблема. В городе ничего не работает. У меня там муж остался, магазины закрыты половина, аптеки не работают, банки не работают, как бы, ну, город отрезан практически от всего, и, соответственно, где-то что-то слышны взрывы издалека. Но дом пока цел, слава богу.
Irina Baranova and Nicole are from the Luhansk region.
И сейчас происходят обстрелы, рушат дома, много жертв. Это так, город без воды, без света.
They queue up outside one of the city's many food aid distribution centres for those who've escaped the fighting, often at great risk. Inside, day in, day out, bags to sustain those driven from war must be filled. Tomorrow the queues will be just as long, and the next day, and the next. Before the war, this site was housing Turkish workers building Dnipro's new underground system. The Turks left, replaced, yes, by more evacuees. Tetiana, the director, a regional MP in her former life, and almost everyone in Ukraine now has a former peacetime life.
Волну приезжали, уезжали люди. В основном это была Харьковская область, потом поехала Луганская область, потом поехала Донецкая область. Это все то, что на линии было обстрелов физически уже и фактически людям прилетали снаряды либо в огород, либо в дом, либо в квартиру, либо рядом, либо рушилась инфраструктура. Люди уже просто выезжали, выбирались кто как мог.
Lives lived in a city braced for possible onslaught. Lives given too. At the city's military cemetery, the new plot grows steadily. The graves of soldiers killed since the Russian invasion. Many bodies too damaged to identify. Defender of Ukraine, it says, and a number. Favourite chocolates and lavish wreaths for the known. Too simple flowers for the unknown. And waiting hard by, the gaping, expectant graves ready to receive more bodies. Many more bodies.